I first saw Gemini plays Pokemon and Claude plays Pokemon, I thought it was the coolest shit I've ever seen. I was obsessed with this kind of benchmark. Turn-based RPGs and Pokemon are just, in my opinion, really good benchmarks. They test an agent's ability to do long horizons tasks with both long-term planning and immediate execution. And they test visual and spatial reasoning. And I think those two things are just really important when it comes to usefulness and long-term intelligence. However, I found out that they were all cheating, or at least the AIs were not playing the game fully by themselves. They were reading directly from RAM and had the ability to do pathfinding to go to different spots. And really didn't sit right with me because in AI engineering, it's a much easier problem to solve since LLMs are much better at understanding text over images. But I wanted to see what would happen if I made my own harness, which would let AI play Pokemon just like you and I would. So basically, just with the screen and just using normal inputs. So visual in and then inputs out. And that is what you see on your screen right now. That is my custom harness playing Pokemon. And further, I made it model agnostic, so all the visual models could use it, and then I could test and benchmark which model would be the best at playing Pokemon and would be the very best, like no one ever was. I chose to choose to build it in a two-level hierarchical architecture, meaning that I had one agent on top delegating tasks and then one executing model. I think this would give the system a fair chance of playing Pokemon, since I wanted to both have a focus on the long-term strategic tasks and the short-term goals. And the task agent would have web searching capabilities such that it could plan all of the subtasks. Then it would delegate subtasks. It would delegate subtasks such as leave the house or walk north to trigger the SO cutscene or go to Route 22 and catch a Mankey. Then as you see now on the screen, the player agent loop would get the screenshot of the current game state, then it would reason about what to do. Then it would press or make a button sequence, then those would execute, and then the loop would repeat until it thought that it had completed the sub goal, and then it would return to the master agent. Of course, there were a lot more engineering work and context engineering than I just went through. And if you're interested, I might do a longer video where I dive into all of the inputs and outputs, some of the tooling of the models, so that you might learn something from this. But for now, if you're interested, you can just check out the GitHub repo in the description. But how well did the models actually perform? As you can see, the current intelligence is still quite narrow. Right now, the player can't logically find out how to get down the stairs. This just really shows like the difference on different capabilities of AI. They can easily code full stack apps and deploy them, but like finding the stairs is where the problem is. You might ask the question, okay, but which model then really was the best? And to test this, I first made a benchmark, which would try to test first which model could get to Viridian City from the start of the game. So that would include going from Pallet Town, going all the way up Route 1, and then going to Viridian City. I think this is quite a good task since it both tests battles, menuing, and navigation, and it takes about 40 minutes. I set a turn limit for 100 turns such that very bad models couldn't just run on forever. And now here's the results. As you can see, GPT 5.5 actually ended up winning. It could complete the benchmark in 46 turns, whereas but it was only by such a small margin. Gemini 3.5 Flash could do that in 50 turns. But then we start to seeing a steep decline uh, from the Gemini models all the way down to Claude Opus 4.8, which actually had to use all of the 100 turns to precisely do it on the last turn. More interestingly, if we plot out the how well each model did compared to what the average price per turn is, we really see how dominating Gemini models really are on the whole frontier. The GPT 5.5 model spent around 13 cents a turn compared to the 4 cents a turn for Gemini 3.5 Flash. And we go all the way down to Gemma 431B, which was very performant in terms of how cheap it was, only spent less than 1/5 of a cent per turn. And it nearly completed the benchmark within the turn limit, but it clearly could understand and play the game, meaning that it was nearly as good as Claude Opus 4.8. And it all of it outperformed all of the models who simply just could not play Grok 4.3, Qwen 3.7, Kimi, and Claude Haiku really just couldn't leave the starting room. You might ask, why might it be that Gemini and the DeepMind team simply perform so well on this benchmark? And I have two theories on this. Theory number one is that they have simply just spent more time investing training and investing compute into visual reasoning tasks and spatial tasks. And you also see this on common multimodal benchmarks. They just seem to perform way better. Also, their models just also seem to be the most well-rounded. They're very good at language, they're very good at reasoning, and they haven't really specialized down the coding path, which Claude really has done this last year. The second theory is a bit more boring, but it could be that the Pokemon data is just baked into the training set themselves. Since this is such a good benchmark for measuring agentic capabilities and spatial reasoning, it would only make sense that the model trainers will also put this kind of data into the model so that it could generally become better at these tasks. That was all that I had for now. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. And if you want to follow along with the new model releases and me measuring their performance on this benchmark, then go follow my LinkedIn. That's where I will post these things. I'm really excited to benchmark all of the new models, GPT 5.6 and Claude Fable, once that comes online again. And I hope they perform much better.